So, imagine this for a second. You are sitting in the back of a damp taxi.
Oh, setting the scene right away. I like it.
Yeah, well, you have to picture it. It's 1970s Manchester, and it is pouring rain outside. I mean, that relentless, just bone-chilling English rain.
Right, the kind that just soaks right through everything.
Exactly. The streets of Victoria Park are completely flooded, and the windshield wipers are, like, violently squelching back and forth, just scraping across the glass.
It's such a visceral sound.
It really is. And up front, the cab driver is absolutely tearing apart the reputation of this disgraced, corrupt police inspector who recently made the papers.
Just letting him have it.
Totally. But the thing is, the cabbie has no idea that the very same disgraced, exhausted inspector is sitting right there in the back seat.
Oh, man.
Just quietly taking it all in,
Huh.
staring out at the flooded streets. And it makes you wonder, have you ever felt that your own obscure passions, like your quiet, seemingly useless late-night studies, might one day be the exact key needed to save your life?
That is a wild thought, but honestly, it fits this story perfectly.
Right, because today we are stepping into the neon-lit, rain-slicked streets of a forgotten audio masterpiece where that exact scenario plays out. So welcome to a live broadcast from Chesterton Radio, coming to you right here from Atchison, Kansas.
The home of classic radio, great books, and timeless stories.
You know it, and I am so excited about our deep dive today.
It is a thrill to unpack this one because for anyone who might not know the history, we are looking at a legendary production from the flagship BBC drama tradition.
Right, Saturday Night Theater.
Exactly, Saturday Night Theater. And this wasn't just, some casual radio slot. This was a British institution. I mean, these were feature-length, incredibly immersive weekly plays.
They were absolute masterclasses in audio storytelling.
They really were. Sometimes they tackled classic literature, but other times they delivered these gripping, totally original suspense dramas. And today's feature is an original play by William Keenan.
Called The Dark Windows of a Room.
Yes. And our goal today is to really invite you into the very architecture of this story. Because on the surface, you might think you are just listening to a gritty police procedural.
Right, like drug cartels, framed cops, the 1970s criminal underworld, all that stuff.
Exactly. But the further down we go into this deep dive, the more you realize this is actually this profound exploration of isolation and, the weight of history and the deeply hidden compartments of the human soul.
And we are definitely going to go deep into those compartments today. I mean, we are going to explore the dark woods of a 400-year-old Elizabethan manor house.
Which is just fantastic.
It is. We'll navigate some incredibly bizarre underground nightclubs in Manchester, too. And really, we're going to spend a lot of time inside the deeply troubled, isolated mind of our protagonist, Inspector John Rook.
Rook is such a fascinating character.
He is. But before we get to him, as we get our bearings here, I have to talk about the immediate atmosphere. The tone of this broadcast is so striking right out of the gate.
It really catches you off guard.
Yeah, because you expect a hard-boiled detective story, right? But it is instantly saturated with this haunting, almost gothic literary undertone.
Which is such a weird mix.
Right. It feels like two completely different worlds colliding.
Well, that collision is entirely intentional, and it's how the writer, William Keenan, kind of destabilizes the listener right from the start.
Oh, totally. How so, though?
Well, you have the utterly mundane, almost comical elements of mid-century British life mixed in. For instance, Rook's landlady, Mrs. Lee.
Oh my gosh, Mrs. Lee.
Right. She is constantly fussing over her famous casseroles of brisket with carrots and onions, or rambling about local bus routes.
Yeah, and then there's the petty bureaucracy of the police station itself.
Exactly. But all of that domestic, mundane reality crashes headlong into something deeply sinister. And the vehicle for that collision really is the sound design.
The sound design is unbelievable.
The BBC Foley artists from this era were just unparalleled. They didn't just use audio to set a scene. They used it to construct this creeping psychological unease.
I really want to dig into how they do that, actually. Because that opening taxi ride we talked about, it is viscerally uncomfortable.
It really makes you squirm.
Yeah. You don't just hear rain. The acoustic engineering makes you feel the dampness in the air. The sound is so close and muffled, right? It captures the precise proximity effect of being trapped in a small metal box with a stranger who is insulting you.
Yes, the claustrophobia is intense.
And the squelch of those wipers. It almost acts like a metronome for Rook's rising anxiety. It is brilliant. But then you contrast that claustrophobic taxi with the places Rook has to go to investigate his own frame-up.
Right, his whole descent into the underworld.
And the descent is so jarring. Like, he goes to this nightclub called The Junction.
Oh, that scene is wild.
It is. Rook is trying to track down a lead, a German girl named Hilda. And he walks into this club that is themed, of all things, like an old railway station.
It's so bizarre.
The sound design here is completely absurd, and it tells us so much about how alienated Rook is. I mean, you hear train whistles blowing over the speakers.
Yeah, instead of music.
Right. And the waitstaff are communicating using literal signal flags instead of menus.
It's just sensory overload.
Exactly. The bartender is serving cheap white wine out of a wooden barrel while pretending to be a train guard. It's loud, it's chaotic, it's modern, and Rook clearly despises every single second of it.
Well, the acoustic chaos of the junction is meant to overwhelm the listener in the exact same way it overwhelms Rook.
Yeah.
Its soundscape is messy, it's intrusive, but then pay attention to how quickly the audio environment shifts. Moments after he leaves the chaotic safety of that club, he is in a narrow alleyway.
Oh, the alleyway scene.
Right. The music cuts out completely. There's this terrifying dead silence. And then, out of nowhere, the hyper-realistic, aggressive roar of a revving car engine tearing down the alley.
Coming straight for him.
Exactly, straight for him.
And, you know, that hit-and-run attempt is terrifying precisely because we can't see it.
That's the magic of radio.
Right. If this were television, you'd see a stunt driver and a prop car. But on radio, the Doppler effect of that engine echoing off the brick walls of the alley, it makes the machine sound like an absolute predator.
It does. You just hear the violence bearing down on him.
Which honestly makes Rook's reaction to the attacks so fascinating. He ends up in the hospital, and he is entirely uncooperative.
Oh, he is the worst patient.
He really is.
Yeah.
He is a completely non-traditional protagonist for a police drama.
Yeah. I mean, the cabbie in the opening scene complains that the police force needs brawn, not university brains. And that is exactly what Rook is. He's an intellectual.
Yeah, he's basically a scholar with a badge.
Before joining the police, he spent years studying history, specifically, Henry VIII, the Tudor period, and 16th century architecture.
Not exactly typical cop hobbies.
Not at all. He doesn't fit in with the door-kicking, pint-drinking culture of the 1970s Manchester police. He is an outcast by design. And you can hear the toll that takes in the actor's performance, too. The timbre of his voice carries this unspoken, chronic exhaustion. He is a man totally isolated by his own dedication.
But wait, let me push back on that a bit. Is it just dedication, or is it like pure stubborn arrogance?
That's a fair question.
Because after that car hits him, he's in the hospital with a broken arm, severe bruising, a dislocated shoulder, and he stubbornly, almost delusionally discharges himself.
He literally walks out broken.
Yeah. His former boss, Chief Inspector Norris, tries to keep him in the bed for his own safety, and Rook literally threatens to sue him for false arrest if he doesn't let him leave.
It's completely unhinged.
Right. He is running on nothing but pure indignation. He isn't acting like a rational investigator. He's acting like a wounded animal backed into a corner.
No, you're right. That is a very fair assessment. He is incredibly arrogant, and that arrogance is a defense mechanism.
100%.
Because he has no support system. Think about it. When you don't have a family or friends or a life outside of your work, your professional integrity is the only thing keeping you tethered to reality.
Wow, yeah.
If that is questioned, you don't just lose your job, you lose your entire identity. That is why he is practically feral in that hospital room.
Which makes the transition back to his boarding house so striking. We go from the violence of the alley to the sterile conflict of the hospital, straight into his bedroom.
The soundscape changes completely again.
It feels exactly like walking from a chaotic, noisy city street into a quiet, drafty, ancient cathedral. His room is filled with history books, poetry, silence. It is a brilliant psychological shift.
It really is.
But to understand why his identity is under such threat in the first place, we really need to look at exactly how the mechanics of this frame-up work.
Right, let's lay out the inciting incident.
Yeah.
Because it's brutal.
It really is. Walk us through it.
So 4 months prior to the start of the play, Inspector Rook returns from Germany. He was there on a completely routine bureaucratic assignment.
Just picking somebody up, right?
Exactly. Picking up a merchant Navy officer who was wanted on a minor assault charge. Nothing crazy. He lands in England, gets off the train, and is immediately intercepted by his own superiors.
His own guys.
His own guys. They search him right there on the street. They open his briefcase, and inside, tucked among his files, they find 100,000 German marks.
Oh, man. A massive bribe.
Yeah.
A backhander, as the British say.
Yeah, huge amount of cash.
And what is so brutal about this is how the system handles it.
Huh?
I mean, Rook insists he was framed. He says he was at a club in Germany the night before, and someone must have slipped the money into his bag when he wasn't looking.
Which sounds like a flimsy excuse to internal affairs.
Completely. So he goes to trial, the jury listens to his defense, and they find him not guilty. But, and this is the kicker, they explicitly state they are giving him the quote-unquote benefit of the doubt.
Oh, that is the worst thing they could say.
Right. In the realm of policing, a not guilty verdict with the benefit of the doubt is basically a death sentence for a career.
Because it just means internal affairs couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Exactly. In the eyes of the public, the press, and especially his fellow officers, he is dirty. He is suspended pending further review.
His whole world collapses.
And even his former mentor, Chief Inspector Norris, gently suggests that Rook should just pack it in, emigrate to Australia, and go teach history.
Just run away.
Yeah. And Norris reveals something deeply telling during this exchange, actually.
Oh, about the training course.
Yes. He tells Rook that before the bribery scandal even happened, the department was actually planning to send Rook on a mandatory attitudes to work course.
Which is basically 1970s corporate speak for, you are obsessed with your job and need mandatory psychiatric counseling.
That's exactly what it is.
And Norris points out that Rook has absolutely no personal life, no girlfriend, no social life, no hobbies other than sitting alone in his rented room reading about Tudor history and police procedure.
It's kind of tragic.
It is. Norris actually uses this fact to defend Rook's character. He argues that a man who cares that obsessively about being a policeman simply wouldn't take a bribe to jeopardize it.
Which makes sense logically.
It does. But it paints a stark picture of vulnerability. Rook has built his entire life around the institution of the police force. So when the institution ejects him, he is left entirely unmoored in the world.
Completely adrift. So, naturally, an unmoored man with absolutely nothing to lose decides to become his own private investigator.
Naturally.
He begins this solitary, incredibly bleak underworld tour. He realizes that the only way to clear his name is to figure out who planted the money in the first place.
And he's got no resources to do it.
None. And I love how analytical he is about this. I mean, he doesn't just kick down doors, right? He retraces his steps psychologically.
Methodical.
Very. He goes back to the Crazy Horse Club, which is another one of these grim Manchester spots.
Mm-hmm.
He questions the bartender, Harry. And it's fascinating to listen to how a disgraced cop interrogates someone.
Because he doesn't have a badge anymore.
Right. He can't threaten to arrest Harry. He has to use leverage, intimidation, and his deep, deep knowledge of how the criminal ecosystem works to extract information.
He is operating entirely on his own authority, which makes every interaction incredibly dangerous. I mean, he could get killed and no one on the force would care.
Probably be glad, honestly.
Exactly. But through sheer force of will, he pieces together that the only person who had the opportunity to slip that envelope of money into his briefcase was a young, glamorous German student named Hilda Schiller.
Right. She was standing next to him at a bar in Germany.
Yeah. But when he tries to track Hilda down in Manchester, he hits a brick wall. She has completely vanished into the drug scene, supposedly running around with some mysterious American airman.
And this investigation forces him into the exact environments he absolutely loathes.
The loud clubs.
Yes.
Duh.
This hyper-intellectual, introverted historian is forced to navigate places like Mr. Pips in the Junction, interrogating bouncers and drug dealers. It's a complete clash of cultures.
It really highlights how out of place he is in the modern world.
Totally. But just as he hits a dead end with Hilda, the narrative pivots sharply. The police pull a body out of the Manchester Ship Canal.
And it's Hilda.
It is Hilda Schiller.
Well,
She hasn't just vanished, she was murdered. And this brings the catalyst of the entire story right to Rook's front door. Because who shows up? Hilda's sister, Anna.
Anna. Anna Schiller's arrival changes the entire gravity of the play.
It really shifts gears.
She flies over from Germany the moment she hears about her sister's death. She finds Rook's address and just shows up at his boarding house looking for answers.
Which is pretty bold.
It is. And Anna is a masterful character. She basically operates as the moral counterbalance to the grim reality of Manchester.
How do you mean?
Well, she is a plain, dutiful woman. She teaches handicapped children back in Germany. She is the total inverse of her glamorous, reckless sister who got swept up in the cartel world. She is responsible, stoic, and grounded.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
You're calling her the moral counterbalance, the grounded stoic.
Yeah.
But let's not forget what is actually in her purse.
Oh, the purse, yeah.
Right. She is sitting in Mrs. Lee's cozy parlor, drinking a hot cup of sweet tea, being incredibly polite, and she is carrying a lethal antique English stiletto dagger in her handbag.
She came prepared.
She fully intends to hunt down the men who murdered her sister and stabbed them to death. How does that make her the moral center?
Well, it's a brilliant contradiction, isn't it? But you have to look at the motivation. Her desire for vengeance doesn't stem from malice, you know? It stems from a profound sense of guilt and duty.
Oh, interesting. Guilt over what?
She feels she failed her sister. By focusing too much on her students and her own responsibilities back home, she let Hilda slip away. So the stiletto isn't the weapon of a criminal. It is the weapon of a woman who feels the justice system is utterly inadequate for the depth of her grief.
Wow. Okay. We put it like that.
Right. And that is exactly what connects her to Rook. They are both fundamentally serious, lonely people who have sacrificed their personal happiness for a sense of duty, only to have the world violently punish them for it.
The chemistry between them is so unusual, too.
It's not your typical romance.
Not at all. It isn't some sweeping cinematic love story. It is incredibly awkward and tentative.
Yeah.
You have two people who are entirely self-reliant, who have thick emotional armor, suddenly forced into proximity. There's a deeply touching moment where Anna finally breaks down over her sister's death. She cries. And Rook, who probably hasn't comforted another human being in a decade, clumsily offers her his large, white, impeccably folded handkerchief.
It's such a small, formal gesture.
It is, but it's monumental for him.
Yeah.
They bond over their shared, crushing isolation.
They really recognize the same damage in each other. And it's this strange, quiet alliance between the disgraced intellectual cop and the grief-stricken teacher that sets the stage for the true brilliance of the narrative structure.
Yes, the twist.
Because William Keenan is playing a massive trick on the listener. Up until this point, we think we know exactly what kind of story we are in, right?
Yeah, we have a dead girl in a canal, a framed cop, a mysterious American syndicate, and $2 million worth of high-grade heroin moving from Vietnam to a U.S. military airbase at Verwald.
Exactly. It is a standard 1970s international narcotics thriller.
Right. You expect a shootout at a warehouse. You expect a high-speed car chase.
But you don't get that. Keenan pulls a massive bait and switch. He takes this modern cartel thriller and flawlessly morphs it into a 16th century historical mystery.
I love this part so much. This is the moment where Rook's quote-unquote useless obsession with Tudor history, the very thing that made him a pariah at the police station, becomes the key to unraveling a multi-million-dollar international syndicate.
It's brilliant plotting.
Let's look at how he connects the dots, because it is so satisfying. So Rook is looking over a map, right? And he realizes that the day before he was arrested, he had taken a detour to visit the ruins of an Elizabethan estate called Brambourne Manor.
Just doing his history nerd thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this manor happens to be located right on the edge of the American military airbase. He remembers reading an obscure pamphlet by an American history professor who had been stationed at that base during World War II.
And here is where the mechanics of the plot become just fascinating. Rook realizes that the syndicate, led by this ruthless American named Max Benner, isn't just hiding the heroin in a random barn or a locker somewhere.
Right.
They are utilizing the architectural secrets of the Tudor era. So Rook actually has to sit down with these incredibly aggressive, well-armed American federal narcotics agents, Marshall Dean and Dick Cohen, who have flown in to bust the cartel.
Oh, man, the DEA guys.
Yeah, and he has to give them a literal history lesson.
Can you imagine the frustration of these federal agents? I mean, they have wiretaps, they have submachine guns, they have two-way radios, and this bruised, suspended, nerdy British cop is lecturing them about Queen Elizabeth I.
They must have thought he was insane.
Totally. Explain what Rook tells them, because the historical context here is exactly what makes the twist work so well.
Okay, so Rook explains the 1585 Act of Parliament to these guys.
Okay.
This was a brutal piece of legislation under Elizabeth I. It made it high treason simply for a Catholic priest to step foot on English soil.
Wow, just being there was treason.
Yes. And it made it a felony punishable by death for anyone to harbor or assist a priest. The state was actively hunting these clergymen down.
Terrifying.
So wealthy, recusant Catholic families across England had to adapt to survive. They began modifying their sprawling, stately homes, building incredibly complex, invisible compartments within the architecture.
Priest holes.
Exactly. These were known as priest holes. They were designed to hide the priests, their vestments, and the implements for mass whenever the queen's men, the pursuivants, came raiding the house.
And these weren't just like trapdoors under a rug, right? These were engineering marvels.
Oh, absolutely. They were built into the thickness of chimney breasts, beneath false floorboards, or behind solid stone fireplaces that pivoted on hidden iron hinges. They even had disguised ventilation shafts leading up through the chimneys so the men hiding inside wouldn't suffocate.
That is incredible.
And Rook realizes that Max Venner's cartel has discovered an intact priest hole beneath the massive fireplace at Bramburn Manor, and they are using this 400-year-old sanctuary to smash their heroine.
Which leads us directly to the climax of the play. And again, the audio here is spectacular. It is a tense night raid in the dark woods.
So atmospheric.
Rook, Anna, and the federal agents are creeping up to the ruined manor in the freezing moonlight. They breach the house, they find the grand fireplace. Rook figures out the hidden stone mechanism. They heave the massive masonry out of the way, and they drop into the priest hole.
And they find the drugs.
They find $2 million in heroin.
Mm.
But, and this is the genius of the scene,
Yeah.
the smugglers are gone.
Venner and his men aren't there.
Nowhere to be seen. The federal agents are furious. They think they missed him. They think the cartel escaped out the back and into the woods.
And they are ready to call off the search and start a manhunt outside. But Rook's historical intuition kicks in again. He remembers reading about the man who actually built these hiding places, a genius Jesuit lay brother named Nicholas Owen.
Okay, wait, explain Nicholas Owen to me, because how does a 16th century builder outsmart 20th century federal agents?
It's so cool. So Nicholas Owen was a master carpenter and stonemason who dedicated his entire life to building these priest holes. He worked alone, usually at night, to keep the secret safe.
Wow.
And Owen knew that the Queen's hunters were incredibly thorough. They would come in with measuring tapes, they would tap the walls with mallets to find hollow spaces, they would literally tear up the floorboards.
So eventually they'd find a secret room.
Exactly. Owen knew that eventually a standard secret room would be found, so he invented something called the bolt hole.
A bolt hole? What is it, like a secret room inside a secret room?
Exactly that. Think of it like a Russian nesting doll, a matryoshka doll, but made of cold, suffocating stone. Owen would build the primary priest hole, but then beneath the floor of that hole, or behind a false wall within it, he would build a second, smaller, more deeply concealed chamber.
Oh, that is devious.
It was a brilliant psychological trick. He gave the hunters a win. They would find the first secret room, realize it was empty, assume the priest had fled, and they would just stop searching. They wouldn't realize there was a smaller doll hidden inside the one they just opened.
So Rook is standing in this empty priest hole with the drugs, and he realizes the smugglers didn't run.
They're still there.
They heard the agents coming, and they dropped down into the secondary bolt hole. So he starts tapping the stone floor of the secret room. He finds the hollow spot. They pry up the stones, and there, huddled in the freezing dark, are Max Venner and his accomplice.
Just waiting it out.
They didn't run. They were just outsmarted by a 400-year-old architectural trick, recognized by a police inspector who actually paid attention to history.
It is the ultimate vindication of the intellectual life, really. I mean, the modern brute force tactics of the narcotics agents, with all their technology and firepower, were entirely useless against the architecture of the past.
Totally useless.
It required a man attuned to the silence of history to hear what was truly going on beneath the floorboards.
That irony is so delicious. I mean, they wanted to send him to psychiatric counseling for reading books, and a book is exactly what breaks a multinational drug ring.
It's perfect.
But, beyond the cleverness of the plot, this realization forces us into the deeper themes of the broadcast, because this story is doing something profound with the concept of interior versus exterior reality.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really rich.
Yeah, the entire play is a juxtaposition between Rook's rich, intellectual inner life and the bleak, hostile exterior world.
Just look at the physical environments Keenan constructs. Rook's boarding house room is incredibly cramped. It's meager, but it is filled with poetry, historical biographies, and deep, considered thought.
It's a sanctuary.
It is a sanctuary of the mind. He has essentially built his own psychological priest hole to protect himself from the world, and what is outside that room? Outside is rain-slicked industrial Manchester. It is flooded streets, treacherous alleys, hit-and-run drivers, corrupt cops, and the freezing dark woods of the ruined manor. The exterior world is entirely profane and dangerous.
The contrast is razor sharp, and it really highlights just how isolated both of our main characters are. Because Rook is an island. He is alienated from his peers. He is a pariah to the public. And as Nora so brutally pointed out, he has absolutely no personal life to fall back on.
He's totally walled off.
He has walled himself off. And Anna is equally isolated. But her isolation is self-imposed through duty and guilt. She feels entirely responsible for her sister's death.
She carries a lot of weight.
She does. She tells Rook that she constantly wonders if she should have given Hilda more time instead of focusing so intensely on her students.
Right.
She even confesses that she turned down a marriage proposal from a good man back in Germany because she felt her duty to her work was more important.
Wow.
Now her sister is dead, the man is gone, and she is totally alone.
They are both carrying immense invisible burdens. And this actually brings us to the central poetic metaphor of the entire broadcast. It is hidden right there in the title. The dark windows of a room.
Yes, the poem.
There is this beautifully quiet, pivotal scene halfway through the play. Anna is in Rook's boarding house room, and she's looking at his collection of poetry. She mentions how she used to copy out William Wordsworth to practice her English.
Which is such a lovely detail.
It is. And Rook, trying to bridge the gap between them, asks her to read a verse. She literally closes her eyes, points her finger blindly at a page, and selects a poem at random.
And the lines she reads are just haunting. The windows of my room are dark with bitter frost. The stillness aches with doom of something loved and lost.
It's so heavy. On a literal narrative level, she is mourning her sister. The something loved and lost is Hilda. But on a deeper thematic level, that room serves as a metaphor for the mind, the conscience, and the human soul.
I absolutely love that scene.
Yeah.
Because Rook replies to her in a way that is so uncharacteristically vulnerable for him.
He opens up a tiny bit.
He does. He says, "The dark windows of my room seem much more cheerful when you're about." He is ostensibly talking about his physical bedroom in Mrs. Lee's boarding house, sure. But he is also talking about the interior of his own mind.
Yeah, his mental state.
For 4 months, ever since the frame-up, he has been locked inside this cold, paranoid, frostbitten mental space. He has been nursing grievances and plotting investigations. Anna brings a warmth, a shared understanding of grief that begins to thaw the frost on his psychic windows.
That's a great way to put it.
The room is the self. And a person who is isolated by betrayal lives in a room with dark windows.
That is a really beautiful way to frame it. And, if we connect this metaphor to the broader mechanics of the play, it expands into a deep obsession with the concept of the seen versus the unseen.
Which is huge in radio.
Exactly. This is the structural core of the story. Think about how many crucial elements in this narrative are hidden from view. The bribery money was slipped completely unseen into Rook's briefcase. The hit-and-run driver strikes from the unseen shadows of the alleyway. The federal agents spend the play hiding unseen in the woods, planting unseen electronic listening devices in hotel rooms.
Right.
And of course, the literal climax revolves around a secret compartment hidden beneath a secret compartment. The heroine is unseen. The smugglers are unseen.
Even Rook's true heroism is unseen. I mean, think about it. The cab driver thinks he's corrupt. The bartender thinks he's a nuisance. The public thinks he took a massive bribe.
Everyone thinks the worst of him.
The visible surface of the world suggests that Inspector John Rick is a dirty cop. But the unseen reality, the truth hidden in the dark, is that he is the only truly honorable man left in the city.
Yeah.
The play is constantly challenging the listener to consider what lies beneath the visible surface of people and places. It's just like Bramburn Manor, right? It looked like a decaying, worthless ruin on the outside, but it holds $2 million on the inside.
Which brings us to what I consider the most profound synthesis in the entire broadcast.
Lay it on me.
The moral inversion of the architecture.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, the play forces the listener to compare the historical persecution of Catholics in the 16th century with the modern 1970s drug trade. In 1585, those priest holes were built by Nicholas Owen to hide men who were trying to deliver the sacraments, to provide spiritual salvation during a time of brutal, lethal state persecution.
Right, they were saving lives.
Owen was eventually captured, tortured on the rack, and died without ever giving up a single location of the sanctuary rooms he built. That architecture was designed for faith, preservation, and the protection of life.
Wow, what a sacrifice. And then we snap back to the 1970s.
Exactly. The architecture of secrecy is exactly the same. Venner's men are using the very same stones, the very same hidden hinges, the very same nested bolt holes. But the moral valence of what is being hidden has completely and utterly inverted.
Oh, I see.
Instead of hiding spiritual salvation, the secret room is now being used to hide heroin. Literal, chemical poison. It is hiding greed. It is hiding cartel members who murder young women and dump them in canals. The physical space hasn't changed an inch, but the soul of what occupies that space has been entirely corrupted.
That is a haunting realization.
Right.
It suggests that history is not just a linear timeline of events, It is a recurring cycle of human behavior.
Yes.
The impulse for secrecy, the mechanics of hiding, the desire for sanctuary, these are enduring human traits. But what a society chooses to hide in its dark rooms defines the moral character of its era.
That's spot on. And honestly, this is exactly why this story had to be a radio drama.
Let's talk about that. Let's really look at the craft of this medium, because a twist like that, the psychological weight of a dark, hidden room, it lands so much harder in audio than it ever could on film.
It really does. Audio drama is fundamentally a medium of active participation. When you watch a film, you are a passive observer. The director shows you the room. But in radio, the Foley artists and the actors give you the acoustic clues. And your brain has to construct the room.
You have to paint the darkness yourself.
Exactly. Let's talk about the acoustics of that final sequence, actually. How does the BBC make a listener feel claustrophobic without showing them a tight space?
Oh, it's so good. It's all about reverberation and the proximity of the microphone.
Right.
When Rook and Anna are standing in the main hall of the manor, the voices have a slight echo, indicating a large, cavernous space. But the moment they slide away the false fireplace and crawl into the priest hole, the acoustic signature instantly changes.
The echo vanishes.
Completely vanishes. The audio becomes incredibly dry and close. You hear the sharp, immediate scrape of stone on stone. You hear the actor's breathing become heavier, closer to the microphone, simulating the lack of oxygen in that tiny space.
I felt like I couldn't breathe listening to it. When they drop down into that secondary bolt hole, you are trapped in the dark right alongside them.
It's so effective.
If this were a television show, you would be looking at a cross-section of a set built on a soundstage. You would be safe on your couch watching actors pretend to be in a hole. But through the theater of the mind, the isolation of the medium traps you inside the architecture.
This really traces back to the legacy of the great radio dramatists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pioneers like Norman Corwin, who understood that the radio is actually the most visually limitless medium in existence.
100%.
In the dark windows of a room, we jump seamlessly from a sterile fluorescent hospital ward to a noisy, absurd nightclub to a freezing 400-year-old stone manor using absolutely nothing but dialogue, acoustic framing, and subtle Foley work. The transitions are instantaneous because they happen inside your imagination.
I always compare listening to a great radio drama to reading a really scary book by flashlight under the covers when you were a kid.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
It creates this involuntary, intense intimacy. You are entirely enveloped in the soundscape. When Anna breaks down crying in Rook's room, the closeness of the audio makes you feel like you are sitting in the armchair right next to her.
You really do.
You simply cannot get that level of immediate internal connection when you are staring at a piece of glowing glass across the living room.
No, you can't. And that intimacy is crucial because it allows the philosophical weight of the story to actually penetrate. We aren't just listening to a plot. We are absorbing a worldview.
Yeah.
Which brings us to what we might call the Chestertonian reflection of this deep dive. If we distill the core insight of this entire broadcast, we arrive at a profound paradox.
Which is, a man may escape the modern world, but he can never escape the room within himself.
Let's really break down that paradox. Look at Rook's trajectory. He was disgusted by the 1970s. He hated the violence, the bureaucracy of the police force, the vulgarity of the nightclubs.
So he tried to escape. Exactly. He retreated into the 16th century. He buried himself in books about Tudor architecture and Elizabethan politics, seeking this pure, intellectual, clean refuge. But what did he actually find when he got there?
Well, he found that human nature is terrifyingly identical across the centuries.
Right.
The greed, the secrecy, the brutal betrayals, the desperate need for sanctuary, it was all present in Tudor England, just as it was present in modern Manchester. His historical retreat wasn't an escape from his present reality. It was a mirror reflecting it back at him.
He went looking for the past and found the exact architectural blueprint of the crime he was currently trying to solve.
Which raises the question of vocation, really. Is Rook's obsession with history a superpower or just a symptom of his trauma?
That's the big question.
I think the ending suggests it's both. Look at the final scene. Rook and Anna have survived. They have brought down the cartel. And what is left? You have two fundamentally dutiful people.
Yeah, at their core.
Rook is a policeman to the marrow of his bones. Even when the institution cast him out, he kept doing the job. Anna is a teacher. Even while grieving her sister, she is anxious about getting back to her disadvantaged students in Germany.
The broadcast seems to posit that in a world deeply corrupted by hidden vices, a world that will always have its dark windows and its secret holes filled with poison, the only real antidote is a quiet, steadfast dedication to truth and duty.
Heroism in this story isn't flashy at all.
No, Rick isn't a superhero. He gets beaten up, run over by a car, mocked by his colleagues, and nearly fired. Anna isn't an action star, but they endure. They persist. They do the work when no one is watching.
And they find a kind of grace in each other because of it. When we strip it all away, Rook and Anna are just two deeply lonely, damaged people who realize that the only way to survive a corrupt world is to just do your job, quietly and honestly, and find someone who understands the weight of that.
It's remarkably sweet.
The ending is so charming. Rook formally proposes that they take a touring honeymoon of England to go look at stately Elizabethan homes.
It is the most wonderfully nerdy, hyper-specific, perfect ending for these two.
It truly is. It brings a desperately needed warmth to the cold, dark windows of the room. It suggests that while every human soul may have its dark, hidden compartments, the right connection and a shared sense of purpose can actually bring light into them.
That's a beautiful takeaway.
So as we wrap up our time in Manchester today, I have to ask, is the dark windows of a room remembered today? Honestly, outside of very dedicated audio drama preservation circles, it is a largely forgotten gem of the BBC archives.
Which is a shame.
It is. And perhaps it's forgotten precisely because it refuses to fit into a neat little box. It is a gritty police procedural, yes, but it is also a deep architectural history lesson and a tragic, incredibly tentative romance all at once.
It does so many things well.
It demands a lot of active participation from its listener, but the reward is immense. It is a masterpiece of the form.
I entirely agree. It's a brilliant piece of storytelling that respects the intelligence of its audience. And, we would love to invite you to continue this conversation with us.
Oh, absolutely.
If diving into the hidden compartments of this audio drama sparked your imagination, if you want to explore more lost classics, brilliant adaptations, and profound stories, point your browser over to our Substack. We have in-depth essays expanding on the themes we discussed today.
Lots of great stuff on there.
And of course, make sure you join us on the live stream at live.chestertonradio.com. There is an entire world of classic radio waiting in the archives to be rediscovered.
There really is. History is never as dead as we think it is. It's usually just hiding right beneath the floorboards.
Waiting to be found.
Exactly. So I want to leave you with a final thought today, directly tied back to Inspector Rook's obsessive life-saving knowledge. The next time you find yourself in an old, quiet space, whether it's a drafty cathedral, an abandoned manor house, or even just a room with dark windows, run your hand along the walls. Feel the stone. You never know what history is waiting in the dark to explain your present. Good night from Atchison.